Hello and welcome to today's broadcast. I'm broadcasting live using multiple channels today, Twitter and also YouTube and Twitch. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to discuss Kanye. I'm going to discuss Jon Stewart's interview with the Arizona Attorney General. And I'm going to talk about some great reasons to vote early and to vote enthusiastically these midterm elections. Now, people have said democracy is on the line. Democracy is often on the line. If you look at American political history with a brave face. Bravery is kind of required because there's a lot of very human tendency to live in a state of comfortable denial about the kind of long-term fissures and cracks in America's political system. But let's not forget to say that it's admirable that having democracy is a big advantage over not having democracy, and that authoritarian governance, whilst appealing to those kind of people who like strongman daddy figures in charge of all governance, the reality is that authoritarian governments are usually very repressive and very disrespectful of people's right to live and thrive. So if authoritarian governments aren't sending people off to camps, they're stripping rights from other people and maintaining a degree of popular support by demonizing small demographics of people that are easily turned into villains in whatever narrative they choose to spin at any given moment in time. Currently, we've got Kanye West spinning a narrative that he's being oppressed by Jews, and you can see how destructive that is in terms of how emboldening it is of Nazis by way of what happened in Los Angeles when there was a sign hung up over the 403 freeway saying Kanye was right about the Jews, and a lot of people doing the Sieg Heil, which is a fascist Nazi salute. So other Jewish people are reporting on social media that they've had visible signs of Jewishness, like a mezuzah on their door, torn off their door, and the little miniature religious text inside stripped out and thrown on the floor. So it is kind of obvious to people who are familiar with how this escalates that when you have prominent figures articulating big, massive conspiracy theories which villainize one particular demographic group, that has violent consequences for other people. And also violent consequences that aren't immediately obvious. If people subscribe, even in a minor degree, to the kind of conspiracy theories that say things like Jews control the media and Disney and Jews control the banks and everything and they're all out to get us, they stop caring about what happens to Jewish people as much. They're less likely to advocate for the human rights of Jewish people. Christopher's saying hello. Hi, Christopher, nice to see you. Now, what can I do to make this screen bigger? Because what I want to do right now is play a little bit of Jon Stewart for everybody. So let's see if I can do that. I guess I have to press escape first and then press play here. Okay.
Right now, we have about, I think almost 20 criminal cases related to the 2020.
Out of 4 million votes.
Yeah, no, I'm talking facts, John. But the reality is there are millions of people, not only in Arizona, but people throughout this country that think the election is stolen.
There's people that believe in angels, but that doesn't mean you launch an investigation that angels changed ballots. Like, that's a bit of a tautology. When you have a former president spreading rumors to his supporters, for instance, Trump can say, 74,000 mail-in ballots received that were never mailed, magically appearing ballots. 168,000 fraudulent ballots printed on illegal paper. 36,000 ballots illegally cast by non-citizens. Now, the truth is, none of that was real.
When it first came out, the Cyber Ninja said Joe Biden won Arizona. And then they got a lot of pushback, and they started hedging and hawing. And then next thing you know, people were like, well, Brnovich needs to do something about it. And then it was like, a hot
But
mess.
you've responded by doing things about it. You've
What I've done is-
said you're still investigating.
We've run a lot of the stuff to ground.
And when you get it to ground, will you come out and say, Donald J. Trump is wrong? The election in Arizona was fair, not stolen, and not fraudulent.
I've always been a straight shooter, and once all the facts and evidence are John, come on, man. I'm telling you,
You have found no evidence that the election in Arizona was fraudulent or stolen from Donald Trump.
Donald Trump lost Arizona, period. I've said that from the very beginning. There have been isolated incidences thus far we've identified,
Yes.
and we are prosecuting.
Yes.
We still have some active investigations going on, but people
But
can draw their own
Lorraine,
conclusions.
there is no, people cannot draw their own conclusions. That's the point of the law.
Yeah, it
The
is.
law is that you have facts
Right.
and you have fiction.
Right.
The fact is, the election in Arizona was well run, not fraudulent, and not stolen from Donald Trump, according to even your investigation.
I have never said.
Why is it so hard to just say yes to that?
I guess because I've spent most of my career as a prosecutor, and we still have some ongoing cases.
So in your mind, you still feel like after all this, you're going to discover
No.
a concerted effort to steal the election from Donald Trump and that it was fraudulent. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So why can't you say the election in 2020 was not stolen or fraudulent?
I will tell you this, as I said.
This is blowing my
Is it
mind.
really?
Okay, so the reason it's blowing Jon Stewart's mind is because people will do amazing things that compromise their personal integrity when they're sort of sucked into the orbit of fascism. And this is just a historical tendency that some people find that they can hold on tight to their consciences, other people struggle. Now, I've got someone wrote a comment about it that I thought was insightful. I will share with you. They were talking about authoritarian movements, that authoritarian movements in other countries and across history have often become with movements or efforts to delegitimize elections. And many of those promoting the stolen election narrative know that it is false and are using it to gain power. So Jon Stewart's mind was blown by how another white man could look him in the face and say, yeah, I can't commit to saying that it wasn't stolen because, sure, Trump alleged tens of thousands of votes were stolen, dead people voting, masses of people bussed in, and all of these grandiose schemes that Trump claimed were true, and that reasonable people understand were not true, and that there have been investigations that have turned up 20 cases of there being, something wrong with somebody's vote, perhaps a felon who voted when it wasn't permissible for them to do so, or someone whose signature didn't match. There's 20 cases, which in the context of millions of votes, 3 million votes in Arizona, is minuscule, but it's appealing to the kind of people who are intoxicated on the fascist idea, the fascist appeal to people who want a father figure in governance, a strong father figure like Donald Trump, reassuring them that, yes, everything they've heard on Fox News is true. They are right to want a hierarchy in which some people are more authentic than other people. Migrants are relegated to a lesser tier of worth in American society, and all of the fear-mongering that Fox engages in by focusing massively on crimes committed by people of color, using surveillance footage, using anything at their disposal to create an unnecessary fear that there is a race war happening in which individual white people might have to pay for the collective crimes of white people over history. Because nobody wants, and this is fair, nobody wants as an individual to pay collectively for crimes committed by other people and injustices committed by other people. But the thing is, it's not true. There isn't a race war. There's often just a lot of disturbed people who try to instigate a race war on their own terms. And I'm thinking of Dylan Roof, who took the lives of multiple people in a was it North or South Carolina? A Carolina state which had a shooting, South Carolina, I think, a shooting in a church because, and there was a racist manifesto behind it saying he believed there would be a race war. People had to suffer punishment for permitting miscegenation or marriage between people of different skin colors. The point is, yes, there are some disturbed individuals out there, but there's also a great deal of people hopped up on a longing for white rule and a longing for a restoration of the aims of the Confederacy to subjugate Black Americans, to restore that which was taken from them, the right to profit from the suffering of others. And so, yes, that's one of my points for today. The other one is Kanye, who has decided he will benefit from affiliation with white supremacy. And so you've got Kanye West, who pioneered a line of t-shirts saying White Lives Matter, and who's been dumped by Adidas today because he had said things to contribute to anti-Semitic conspiracies. There were Nazis holding signs over highways saying Kanye is right about the Jews. But also he said on a videoed podcast or something, a videoed broadcast, that he could say anything he wants and Adidas would not dump him. He was so confident that his design collaboration with them was sufficiently profitable that they would allow their reputation to be dragged through the mud in order to preserve that relationship, that it was going to be too legally costly for them to extricate themselves from their financial arrangement with Kanye West. Now, Kanye is not renowned for being the most mentally stable of people, but being anti-Semitic is attractive to mentally ill people and to not mentally ill people. So you can't say it's the exclusive domain of one or the other. It's just conspiracy theories that give people a nice overarching framework to ascribe villainy to a group of people and not to themselves. To go, I am magical and wonderful, and this whole group of people are trying to bring me down, and I have to engage in a holy war to defeat them. So Kanye West, self-appointed warrior in a holy war of his own imagination. It's pretty destructive to the emotional well-being and to the physical safety of Jewish people. More broadly than that, the people he has allied himself with, Republicans and Trump-led Republicans, they are the people who are putting children in danger through virtue of pandering to their donor class of gun manufacturers and the class of Americans who have been mightily deceived about the meaning of the Second Amendment and instead believe that the Second Amendment allows them to hold on to weapons for the purpose of resisting tyranny, that they are the Bruce Willis in Die Hard of their own story, and that they should be allowed to maintain whatever armory of weapons they want. Oops. Is this still working? Yes. Okay. Don't have much battery left, but it's still working. All right, let's go to some more points. Hi, Holly. Hi, Bob. I am separately broadcasting on my phone while simultaneously broadcasting from my laptop so that I can see comments on Twitter, because StreamYard doesn't have that relationship with Twitter, but now I can see people on Twitter today. Hi. And so that's exciting. Thanks for joining me. There's how many candidates are there? There's a lot of candidates that are running on Trump's platform of election delegitimizing, who are being marinated in a rhetoric that will allow them or that will allow their conscience to say, It's okay to commit crimes on behalf of Trump because we're just trying to preemptively get for him what continues to be stolen from him. Election victories have been stolen from Trump, so we can break the law to help Donald Trump in future elections, including these midterms, to facilitate a return to power by Donald Trump. And we don't want that, but anywhere where we don't manage to enthuse enough young voters about turning out to protect themselves, their futures, their access to medical care, that's where you're going to lose these positions to Trumpists who will, without reservation, act to steal things for Donald Trump. Because whenever they accuse Democrats of doing something, it's typically a confession. And when they accuse Democrats of being baby killers, they're having to make that accusation so vigorously to cover the fact that their policies and their laxity on the issue of gun safety, their willingness to let guns proliferate throughout America so that 18-year-olds can get their hands on them, disenfranchised, lonely 16-year-olds can get their hands on poorly secured weapons, that there's insufficient enforcement of gun laws, as well as being insufficient gun laws in various states and insufficient background check mandates at a federal level, that there's too many loopholes for people who are in a state of emotional disturbance and antisocial sentiment and anti-human sentiment can go out and try and kill their teachers, their fellow students, their family members, or just members of the public at a church, a cinema, a mall. Americans are walking targets to be victims of gun laws from Republicans, and none of their suggested solutions, like strengthening doors or windows, are preventing enough of these shootings. More need to be prevented. It's not okay for Americans to have to live in this state of constant fear that that somebody with unaddressed personal problems, somebody who has been steeped in so much gun culture that they feel that guns will offer them a sense of mastery that they lack in their lives. Guns will bring them notoriety. Firing a gun, murdering people will bring them a sense of accomplishment. That is the case because these weapons are so central to the almost religious fervor with which many people subscribe to the Republican Party and to the idea of unregulated gun ownership. All right. Republican election deniers are on the ballot in nearly every state. And this is a good point from Simon Rosenberg, who is a political strategist and consultant, and anti-MAGA. He says every Dem and every progressive organization should be turning over their social media feed and communications to celebrating people voting, volunteering, and trying to win the midterms. We need to create more positive energy, encourage your organizations to be part of this effort. So I'm devoting some space to doing that today. Someone called Democrats Deliver at an account, Truth Justice HPH, says, have been text banking for weeks, and I can say that the energy amongst Dems is building. There's a lot of enthusiasm. Did Texas yesterday, North Carolina Friday, and Dems were pumped. Here are screenshots of replies from Texas voters. So this is get out the vote work with text banking organizations. You can sign up at mobilize.us.us and find opportunities and instructions on how to text bank yourself. Look, this is examples of what happens. Hi, Gertrude. Voting starts this Monday. Can we count on you to support the Democratic candidates from start to finish by voting early this week? Yes, yes, yes. Go Dems, says Gertrude. And they reply, you're the best, Gertrude. Thank you for making a plan to vote early. You can use any polling place. Find yours at harrisvotes.com. if you see an issue, call us at this number. So that is awesome. Thank you for making a plan to vote early. You can use any polling place. Someone says, sure will, just to know I've had enough of their blup blup, their euphemism word. We're going to make this happen, one love. That's awesome. Thank you, Frederick. Voting early is useful. Oh, someone else says it was the biggest crowd they've ever seen early voting in a midterm. Waited 35 minutes to get to the machine. The line was equally long as I exited. That's in Texas. I think it must be Harris County. I've already voted, and yes, I'm a Democrat. So now let me cover some of the great reasons why you can participate in early voting. Know that you will be taken off the contact rolls once you've voted. So I guess organizations have this strategy of having lists of people, and once there's record that you've voted, you don't get contacted. So if you want another motivation to vote, think, yes, I won't be contacted as much because I will be ticked off some type of list that says records of people voting. There's so much layers of identity verification and keeping of the electoral rolls that there's really no rational ground for Trump and his fascist co-conspirators to keep rolling with that idea that millions of irregular migrants can somehow find a way to vote in an election. It's just not the case. America's quite good at making you jump through hoops, bureaucratic hoops to get to various destinations. And I know I've been trying to jump through some of them myself lately as a relatively new migrant to the United States. Oh my gosh, trying to get a social security number. And I took even my marriage certificate, my birth certificate. But yeah, I have to come back another time. And it's super fun. It's super fun. Thanks, America, for having me here. I've got a work visa now. It's all good. But yes, lots of hoops. They don't just hand out the ability to vote to anybody. I certainly can't vote and won't be able to for years until I get citizenship and all the various things, or whatever it is you have to do. I certainly know that, I'm not eligible to vote yet, but I am allowed to make political broadcasts in which I beg people to safeguard their communities, their societies, their families, the ability of any women they know to access healthcare in a timely fashion. All of that is on the line now because Republicans are planning to institute a national abortion ban of 15 weeks. They're planning to default on America's debt if they don't, as a bargaining chip to get cuts made to America's safety net payments, and probably just as an exciting way for them to mess things up, to use chaos as a ladder, to confuse people, turn them against the idea of government in general. They will do very bad things to the American economy. And that's not entirely atypical for Republicans. It's an under-discussed problem that American presidents and Republican presidents typically are responsible for creating recession economic conditions. That 10 of the last 11 recessions have started under Republican presidents. All right, so we've got some comments from Christopher that I will add and read aloud. I often tell people that the KKK is not a factor, but the way the media portrays the KKK is the factor. Just like Trump, Kanye should be ignored, but the media makes far too much money to ignore them. Well, I'm happy for him to be condemned rather than ignored, actually, because I don't ignore. If I had a cancerous growth, I wouldn't ignore it either. And it's a bit dehumanizing to liken Kanye to a cancerous growth. So what I would like to say is hate rhetoric, conspiracy rhetoric is like a cancerous growth that I wouldn't recommend ignoring. You have to be vocal in your denunciation of that type of rhetoric and just countering it to say, yeah, it's not okay to say Jewish people are part of some massive global conspiracy to oppress Kanye West, and he said things that he said Jews run a lot of organizations and that they're trying to suppress the Black voice because they'll take geniuses like Kanye West and they will hook him into contracts and then try to stifle his voice. Very conspiratorial. It's not just crazy, it's hate rhetoric. Hate gives people power. When you take someone, whether it be Jews, irregular migrants, and you say they are the villains responsible for all of these obstacles I'm encountering in my life, they're responsible for all the obstacles you're encountering in your life. The implication is, join me in denouncing this group of people. Join me in denouncing Jews. Like Donald Trump talking about COVID being a purposeful attempt by China. When you create a villain out of nothing, then you are giving yourself a wide leash to make up anything you like about them because you're untethered to truth. You're doing it because of the utilitarian value of making yourself feel good and important and encouraging other people to join you in what is almost an article of religious faith. Like people who subscribe to Q and say, oh, yes, definitely there's a cabal of Democrats running child trafficking rings. They don't have any evidence for it. And so they're all the more joined in the same way some people who belong to a church are often joined in their shared embrace of something that's not proven, a divine mystery. So if you center a divine mystery around hating on some people, hating on a group of people, you are also experiencing a sense of community in your shared suspension of the need for evidence. If you're a Trump supporter, you're gaining fervor, you're gaining unity and a sense of club membership in your shared abandonment of the need for facts and evidence. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to people. So with religion, it has the capacity to be more benign. Yes, God is love. You're sure of his message. It's not easily to prove to you that you've received his divine word, but you are joined together in your shared embrace of a belief that you can't always substantiate, but the fact that you all believe it together is unifying. But when that same type of unity is coalescing around the idea of hating on some Jews or hating on Mexican migrants or hating on LGBTQ people or hating on trans people, you are joining together with some people and experiencing a sense of community and purpose in your shared denunciation of a group of people baselessly. So you can say anything you like. You can say trans people are all groomers. You can ignore the fact that so much child abuse has taken place under the cover of religious authority, using a pillar of the community reputation as a priest or a reverend or a minister to take advantage of and abuse the innocence of children who you've been left alone with. That's a hard statement. It's thrown me off my point because it's sad. So the sadness has wrenched me away from whatever I was trying to say. Oh yes, that people in Trump's circle, people on the side of MAGA Republicans and the new breed of conservatives are choosing to pretend that they can attribute any ills they see in society, any rupturing of the social fabric can be laid at the door of people who are fluid in their gender expression, people who are not heterosexual in their choice of life partner. That they can say these people are attacking our children, they're undermining our children's conviction that there are two genders and one permissible path of sexuality, that is to be straight. And how dare they take that from our children? From my perspective, it's not taking anything from children to let them know there's more than one type of life partner to choose. You don't have to choose a member of the opposite sex to love. And across time and space and history, people have often chosen partners of the opposite sex, and there are many long-term, devoted life partner relationships between people of the same sex. So it doesn't bother me, just like it doesn't bother me if somebody chooses to terminate a pregnancy for their own reasons, be it their mental health, their ability to financially support their own family, their ability to pursue career goals, their ability to avoid bearing a child to a rapist or a family member who's coerced somebody into sexual activity. All of those reasons for having an abortion, for me, that's fine and valid. I wouldn't want to force anybody to have an abortion, but I would want the choice to be available to them. But to some people who have been brought up in churches that act as hotbeds of political identity, they're told that if any of their taxpayer dollars contribute to the provision of reproductive health care in that way, that their dollars are subsidizing sin. So they feel agitated, like they're morally complicit in the very existence of abortion anywhere because they pay tax. So it's a great way to get people to turn away from government, to hate government for requiring them to be complicit in sin, and to feel like every day that passes that Democrats get anywhere near power is a day that money is being taken from their bank account to enact murder against small children. And that would be a distressing belief to hold to any degree. So I would never want to force someone who sees abortion as murder to get an abortion. If their life is in jeopardy and they need an abortion, but they would rather die, then that's their choice. It shouldn't be a choice they can make for their 10-year-old child. Oh, look, you should just die in childbirth because I'm so convinced that abortion is murder. Hopefully child services would stop people from forcing their 10-year-old to get an abortion, but it's going to be a legal gray area, and it's certainly a legal gray area right now in a bunch of different American states. Anyway, what's the time? I should go. Thank you for listening today. It's been fun broadcasting to Twitter as well, which is something I used to do through Periscope before it shut down. But look, I can still, yes. Oh, Bob says, a comment on Twitter finally. Bob says, optimism here, don't believe the polls, one word, landlines. Yes, the polls likely skew to older people who still have landlines because young people typically don't have landlines. And young people are at least more likely to be aware of the fact that Republicans have some plans for America that involves an escalating path of stripping rights from people. And if you make various contraceptive methods illegal, you're not just depriving women of bodily autonomy, you're also hurting men who might want to engage in pair bonding sexual activities without having to risk impregnating their partner and dealing with an unwanted child. It's so unfair to the unwanted children that Republicans are forcing into existence by virtue of removing choice from women and removing choice from potential parents, because men don't have the final say in abortions because it's not their body, but they do typically have input. I'm thinking of Herschel Walker, who I think paid for an abortion for a former partner, but the next time she fell pregnant to him a few years later, she refused to get an abortion at his urging the second time. She instead had the child, so they don't have shared custody. He hasn't seen his 10-year-old son since 2016, but according to the mother, and I believe her because Herschel Walker appears to be a pathological liar who denies that the check he wrote related to the abortion, who can't deny the fact that he's paid child support for a child with this same woman who is his accuser, who kept saying that he didn't know his accuser. There's a lot of things wrong with Herschel Walker. But the appealing thing about him probably is that he helps to launder, he helps to whitewash the racism of Republicans in Georgia. So with any luck, there will be sufficient levels of turnout to overcome all the obstacles that Republicans have tried to put in the way of accessible voting. They've made it illegal to hand out water or food to people waiting in line to vote. There's a lot of stratagems to try and disenfranchise Black Americans based on the fact that they're more likely to be Democrat voters than Republican voters. So it is easier to target Black neighborhoods knowing that their votes are more predictable than white voters. White voters could be secret white supremacist libertarian voters who just want to minimize their personal tax burden and don't care about what happens to people around them or their country or their communities, and so vote Republican or have a deluded belief that Republicans are prudent money managers, or any other reason that could compel someone, even at this stage, of blatant criminality on the part of Trump and then blatant facilitation of criminality by people who continue to support and enable Trump. If you're still voting Republican after Trump stole top secret national security documents, has empty classified folders in his Mar-a-Lago property after documents were subpoenaed, and makes nonsensical claims that he was able to declassify these documents with his mind, that they're actually his, that the FBI planted some of them. If you're still able to support Donald Trump after January the 6th, when he very evidently incited his followers to attack the Capitol for the purpose of delaying the certification of Joe Biden's election victory, and so carving a path forward for the results to be overturned and for him to then improperly win the election through use of a provision in the 12th Amendment, which says if there is no clear winner, then the House, one delegate from each state in the House of Representatives can vote on who shall be the president. And in Donald Trump's case, there would have been one delegate from 26 different, one Republican president from 26 different states. And they would have been able to nominate Trump, vote for Trump to be the president. And that would have been a mechanism for him to win the presidency and overturn the actual results of the 2020 federal election. So Christopher says, thank you for another great show. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Should we do a song very quickly? Maybe we'll do a quick song. YouTube. Oh. Well, the phone ran out of battery, so Twitter is, Christopher's keen on the idea of a song. If I bring up something on YouTube, oh, no, if I play it on a neighboring device, what song shall we sing? I practiced a couple, and it's not perfect because I kind of need some more vocal training, really. Singing is a challenging business, but I'm doing it for the cause of democracy at this point, and because I love singing, and I hope that it adds. And I'm trying to encourage myself to do one of those things where you rewrite the lyrics. So I look at candidate songs and I think to myself, what if I rewrote the lyrics to this to make it more pro-democracy? If I change things to make some type of TikTok-y video that young people would watch because it's currently popular music. But we'll see. Haven't changed any lyrics yet. So tell me if you enjoy this song. It's not going to be perfect, but I embrace imperfection. Hi, Bob. You've joined through Twitch. All right. This is a song called Wondering. A part of me will always have to lose every single time I have to choose. Swore that it felt right, but was I wrong? Is this where I'm supposed to be at all? I don't have the answers, not today. It's like nothing makes the questions go away. What I'd give to see if the grass was greener on the other side of all had and lost. Would it be enough, or would I still be wondering if I could go back and change the past? Be a little braver than I had, bet against the odds. Would I still be lost? Even if I woke up in my dreams, would there still be something I'm missing? If I had everything, would it mean anything to me? It's Olivia Rodrigo singing this song originally from a teen show on Disney called High School Musical, the musical, the series. My kids love it. It's not finished yet. Feels like I might have broke the best thing that I had. Said too much to ever take it back. Scared I'll never find something as good. Would I even know it if I could? The sum of all I've had. It's a bit high for me. Lost. Would it be enough? Or would I still be wondering if I could go back and change the past? Be a little braver than I had and bet against the odds. Would I still be lost? Even if I woke up in my dreams, would there still be something I'm missing? If I had everything, would it mean anything? Maybe I should turn around, take the other road. Maybe I'm just looking for a ready note. I need a key transposition, but I'll work on it. If I could go back and change the past, be a little braver than I had, bet against the odds, would I still be lost? I'm tired of this song. Woke up in my dreams, would there still be something I'm missing? Anyway, I'm going to stop that one. I realize I'm much more comfortable singing Hamilton music because Hamilton, at least, is at its heart a political show. Hamilton songs are about the need to take each other seriously, but in a context of working for the greater good. So Hamilton's presented as someone who's idealistic about working for America, but who neglects the people in his life, who has some infidelity issues, who gives his son bad advice because he's focused on his own image in the eyes of others. But it's also explained that as an immigrant trying to prove his worth and his reliability to other Americans, advancing his own reputation was how he got the opportunity to do that, to fight in a war, to write 55 different Federalist papers to persuade Americans of the need to adopt the Constitution, of the value and the worth of the Constitution. Alexander Hamilton was key to that process of establishing America. So all of the songs in that musical are reflecting on some or other facet of that existence. Christopher says you can sing whatever you want. I know you're very supportive of my musical efforts. What about a song from Hamilton? What about the Dear Theodosia? And we've all heard that a lot, but it, to me, is the best template for projection of my political feelings, which is protectiveness towards my own children, and this nation as a collection of families, of children and adults, and that adults should be very vigilant in their duty of looking through disinformation, looking past the appeal of hate rhetoric. And I see fascism as a not a political ideology so much so as an opportunistic strategy of exploiting people's appetite for hate rhetoric and exploiting the tendency of media like Fox News or right-wing radio to whip up fear or faux rage, confected outrage. So Christopher says, yay, go for it. Thank you, Christopher. This is a song about children and the feelings of a parent towards their child. Dear Theodosia, what to say to you? You have my eyes, you have your mother's name. When you came into the world, you cried, and it broke my heart. I'm dedicating every day to you. Domestic life was never quite my style. When you smile, you knock me out, I fall apart, and I thought I was so smart. You will come of age in our young nation. We'll bleed and fight for you. We'll make it right for you. If we lay a strong enough foundation, we'll pass it on to you. We'll give the world to you. Blow us all away. Someday, someday. Blow us all away. Someday, someday. Ooh, Philip, when you smile, I am undone. My son, look at my son. Pride is not the word I'm looking for. There is so much more inside me now. Ooh, Philip, you outshine the morning sun, my son. When you smile, I fall apart, and I thought I was so smart. My father wasn't around, swear that I'll be around for you. Do whatever it takes, I'll make a million mistakes, make the world safe and sound for you. I'm of age with our young nation. We'll bleed and fight for you, we'll make it right for you. If we lay a strong enough foundation, we'll pass it on to you. We'll give the world to you. Blow us all away. Someday, someday. Yeah, you'll blow us all away. Someday, someday. So that was fun. Dear Theodosia by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote the music and the book and the lyrics for that show. I can close with some organizations that have dropped Kanye West. And I'm pleased with it because I guess it resolves decisively on this particular event, Kanye's remarks. It resolves the idea that free speech should be completely unconstrained. It says no. It draws a line and says some speech is not speech. It is incitement to hatred. And some speech is not speech. It is or does not deserve the protections of free speech. It doesn't involve yelling fire in a crowded theater because that's not legally a thing anyway. But some speech is such a blatant incitement to hate that is a precursor to violence. And a precursor to violence at a state level Because imagine if Donald Trump gets in power and thinks, yes, Kanye has proven that it can be acceptable to resurrect the type of conspiratorial thinking that preceded the Holocaust. Because Hitler circulated the same type of rhetoric that Jews were operating together in concert to oppress others, that Jews were collectively responsible for Germany losing the First World War and for the terms of the Treaty of Versailles and the economic hardships that was attendant upon Germany's loss and surrender and being forced by other nations to accept the blame for World War One. And the bad financial decisions that followed that, which involved paying Germany's debts by printing money and so devaluing the German currency, causing a lot of hyperinflation and hardship for the German people. But even Germans who weren't materially poorly off, it wasn't popular initially to denounce Jews and bankers. Hitler wasn't popular to start with, and he was frowned upon as being extremist and a demagogue. And his popularity grew over time because repetition of outlandish hate speech makes it plausible to more people. The human brain functions in a multitude of different ways, but one way it functions is by having repeat exposure sometimes correlate with increasing conviction. So you hear something a lot, you're exposed to a lot of advertising that tells you something, and you become to accept that as truth. To differing degrees depending on the individual, but mass repeated exposure causes a shift at a collective level, a shift towards adopting something as true, as not just a belief anymore, but as a true fact. So that's why I'm happy that a line has been drawn underneath Kanye West's remarks to say his brand is now so toxic that it is too financially costly for companies to associate themselves with him. Twitter, Ye said that he would buy Parler, which is a conservative form of Twitter that isn't particularly successful, but he's doing it to circumvent the tendency of companies to disassociate themselves from hate speech that has become too undeniably hate speech. No corporations want to incur fallout from being perceived as repressive and anti-free speech. They don't want conservative backlash from that. I mean, non-conservatives can also believe in free speech and the right to have a marketplace of ideas where people speak their truth and ideas compete naturally in an environment of free expression. So Balenciaga has cut ties with Ye, with Kanye. The film and television studio MRC is not going to distribute a recently completed documentary on Ye over his comments. Vogue has said they don't intend to work with him in the future. The Creative Artists Agency doesn't intend to work with him in the future. Adidas, a German multinational retailer whose founders were apparently originally Nazis. But they took them until today to say Ye's recent comments and actions have been unacceptable, hateful, and dangerous. And the Gap has shut down YeezyGap.com. Anti-Semitism, racism, and hate in any form are inexcusable and not tolerated in accordance with our values. On behalf of our customers, employees, and shareholders, we are partnering with organizations that combat hate and discrimination. So yes, there will be a backlash as well. People will say, see, this proves our point that Jews control everything. That once he said hateful stuff about Black people having a slave mentality. He said hateful things about Black people being on a plantation still in their mind. He was very misogynistic and controlling towards Kim Kardashian in public after they'd broken up, implying that she was still somehow belonged to him and that he had the right to be violent towards her new at the time, then romantic partner, Pete Davidson. I was worried that there might be some type of violent crime there, but luckily she's safe and he's safe for now. Bob says Kanye needs family to intervene. My mum had severe mental illness, so I see somewhat past his words. Does it make sense? Yes, absolutely, it makes sense. Many mentally ill people are attracted to conspiracy thinking, and some subset of those people are attracted to the hate category of conspiracy thinking. But he's not going to get family to intervene because he's wealthy. And Kim Kardashian tried, but had to ultimately divorce him because there are some people whose wealth insulates them from mental health intervention until they become, I guess, sufficiently violent that the law will bring consequences down on them. So Kanye's violence inciting hate speech doesn't break a law. It needs a social consequence for it. And I can still hope that he gets treatment for his mental illness, but I'm keen on there being social consequences to deter people from indulging in hate speech, because it's a powerful tool for self-advancement. Candace Owens is wealthy on the back of it. Donald Trump built his political career on the back of outlandish, hateful, and false claims, claiming that Barack Obama should produce his birth certificate, which he didn't have to do. He'd clearly gone through the bureaucratic hoops to establish himself as an American and as a candidate for political office. He shouldn't have been forced by Donald Trump to prove himself above and beyond what other people do. Other candidates weren't asked to produce their birth certificate, but Barack Obama was. It was a product of racist conspiratorial thinking, not tethered to any facts. And Donald Trump's profile rose in the political arena as a consequence of his hate campaign against Barack Obama. And decent society could have put a stop to that by shaming Donald Trump and having companies denounce him and sever their relationships with him. That could have arrested his political rise at that point by making it obvious that he was association with his behavior was poisonous, that behavior was too toxic to be tolerated. But people at that stage were more protective of the freedom of free speech, unconstrained freedom, in the same way people are often very protective of what they see as a necessarily unconstrained right to own guns. And that's not safe. It's not safe to have people owning rocket launchers if they feel like it. It's not safe for that to be legal. And in society, it's harder because speech is obviously harder to quantify than whether or not you have obtained a license to own a weapon, or whether or not you've passed a background check. Whether or not you're engaging in hate speech is more subjective. So it needs a more subjective kind of collective response. And that needs to be people who are wise to the dangers of inciting hate speech that leads to a political movement or a socio-political movement that encourages people to form very strong, irrational bonds around a charismatic fascist leader. And those bonds are stronger because it's, you know how you can generate nuclear energy by breaking an atom into its component parts? Well, you can also generate political energy by breaking taboos, breaking social norms, because it makes people feel free and accomplished to destroy something. It's hard to build things, and you feel a sense of accomplishment afterwards, but people also get a sense of accomplishment from breaking stuff. So Donald Trump broke taboos. He violated social norms. He indulged in hate speech against Mexican migrants. And that like an atom being broken open, that generated a lot of devotion and passion amongst his supporters, because he to them was a hero for doing something other people did not dare to do. He was a daring pioneer into the wilderness of uncivilized behavior, yes, but they were focused only on the daringness of it and the power of it, because they were primed by hate media, Tucker Carlson, who lies about all manner of things in order to denigrate migrants and denigrate people of color in the United States. They were primed into a state of false belief already about the rate of crimes committed by migrants and the threats posed by Democrats. It's very hard when people get religious levels of fervor about denouncing a political party as satanic and as anti-biblical and as anti-religious. And people will irrationally want to defend themselves and their religion and their identity from attack, because they've been told Satan's out to get you and out to get all the babies. And it's like a holocaust of unborn babies. And the more you whip them up into a protective fervor, the more justified they will feel about committing acts of violence or voting for people who are implicitly promising to enact violence on certain groups, enact violence against certain groups. That's how fascism works. But yeah, gotta go. Thank you so much, and take care, everybody. Talk again soon. I hope you've enjoyed today's broadcast, and if you have any suggestions or feedback, please let me know. I'm at davcat43 that's my Twitter handle, and I appreciate your engagement, and I appreciate your contributions and encouragement. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.